My name is Kristine Swan Lent Gros. I was born in Sioux City, Iowa in January 1st, 1921, which makes me going on 93. And I became interested in flying when I was attending the University of Iowa, and one of my friends was involved with the CAA program, CAP program, and then I was able to get a ride. One of the instructors took me up for a ride, and that wonderful feeling of leaving the earth and seeing everything laid out below you as though it was a miniature garden was just so exciting and wonderful. Well, I had the dream, but that was it. And I didn't have any more money for college. I was on a scholarship. My parents wanted me home that summer. I was 18, and in those days you were still doing what your parents required of you until you were 21. So I went home, and then I had to find a way to go on with my life. And two maiden aunts from Sioux City, Iowa, invited me to come and stay with them. They were like surrogate mothers to our family. And one of them paid for my going to a business school. So I was there. I had just finished as December the 7th, 1941, and everything's, the big speech, the bombing of Pearl Harbor. My mother had family that was in Hawaii, and so she was very excited. So I took the civil service test and was required to go to Washington, D.C. to work for the government. And while I was there, I went from one department to another and ended up with the Civil Aeronautics program. And it was there that I heard of Jacqueline Cochran's program for women, but you had to have a pilot's license. So I borrowed $300 from the government, went to York, Pennsylvania, and stayed at an inn there for $15 a month, and or $15 a week, and I got my pilot's license within a month. And so I went back to Washington and got 2 jobs, and then I applied and passed the Army physical, and I was required, then I was accepted at the program. You had to pay your way from wherever you were to Sweetwater, Texas, and it was a long, long ride. I was disappointed. I was really expecting to see some cowboys along the way, but I never did. And I arrived in this rinky-dink, sandy, dusty town where the largest building in the town was 3-story, what was it called? Something hotel. And inside it was dark, huge pillars, old men sitting on benches, spitting into spittoons, and pictures of prize bulls on the pillars. And outside were about 100 of us women waiting to get on a cattle truck to go to Avenger Field. On our first wonderful experience. And oh, it was exciting. We were a hodgepodge bunch, and that's what made it so interesting. We had a girl in our class who had been on Broadway, and even at 80 she could do high kicks, and she could sing and dance, and there were professional people, there were clerks, nurses, everything, but we all just loved flying. So I entered in the class of 1944, it was the class of 44 W3. There were 100 of us who entered. There were 57 of us who graduated. I was assigned, you were given a choice of selecting either the ferry command or serving at a base. And I opted for training at the B-26 school in Dodge City, Kansas, and went there only to learn that a bunch of French pilots had come in and they had to be trained, and so I was reassigned to Garden City, Kansas as a engineering pilot, testing planes.
Test pilot.
Yeah, test pilot there. And so there were originally just 3 of us. We ended up with 5 of us there, and it was a wonderful base. They treated us very well. In many of the bases, the girls were very resented, and because should mention, ours was the first class that had the uniforms that Jacqueline Cochran designed for us, and they were beautiful. It's the Air Force blue that they have, and so we had like the privileges of a first lieutenant, and but that was it. We had no rank. We were paid $150 a month. We had no benefits. We had no insurance, so that if you were killed, your buddies paid for taking you home, and no recognition at all. And I enjoyed my time there. I went back for advanced instrument training. I was assigned there, and I was sent then to Florida to take a course to advance in my ratings. And it was while I was there that I received a notice to return immediately to my home base. And when I got there, I learned our program was deactivated in 1 day. There were so many men coming back from Europe, and they did not want to end up as being foot soldiers or assigned somewhere else, and so they wanted us to be discontinued. So that was it. I was able to take my instrument flight and pass that before I was sent home. And at home, I worked for a while in the local drugstore, but I had saved money, so that I went to Kansas City and got my instructor's rating there, and planned on continuing in flying. But during my time at Sweetwater, Texas, before I graduated, I met this Robert Lent, who had come back from England and was stationed at Big Springs, Texas. And so we started dating, and when I went back home, whatever it was, anyway, we started dating. But anyway, I ended up marrying Bob in 1945, and it was 40 years after the war that he got a phone call from Frank Reinhardt and I think Ballas Flannery, who was calling the crew members of the B-20 of the Eager Beaver and seeing if they could all reunite at a national reunion, which we did. And that was when I first met Bill and all the crew members. We had such a wonderful time together, the husbands and wives, that we decided we would have our own reunions, which we did. We had 16 of them, and I believe 5 of them at least were at Bill and Pat's house. And this was influenced by the fact there was a lake where we could go fishing and a park across the way where we could go walking, and needless to say, the women could do talking and go shopping.
Where was this?
This is in Mountain Home, Arkansas. So we have this file of I kept a journal, and so we have a file of every reunion, where it was held and who was there, and it's been a joy. So Pat and Bill came to visit Bob and me here at Paoli. the year before Bob died, and after they went back home, Pat died within 6 months of cancer. We had always been in communication, but we had been communicating mainly by email. And so his daughters also knew me from my letters to Pat, and we were very close friends. And so she died, and he's lost out there in Mountain Home. And then Bob died of renal failure the next year. And so it was then this idea of Bill going to the reunion in Pooler, Georgia, with his wife, with his daughter Jackie as a chaperone, and that we got together. And I must say it's been a second life for us, and it's been a very, very happy one.
Wonderful. Is there something you might want to say to the 93rd Bomb Group?
Yes, I'm so impressed with the caliber of the men who in those days, I think, held honor and integrity so highly.